Texturing your model with PBR Material Texture Sets and painting can be carried out with the Blender Add-on PBR Painter, available from Blender Market. This add-on has the advantage of integrating the texturing process right into Blender. The PBR Painter add-on is installed in the usual way, but with one additional step at the end, adding a PBR Painter workspace. After downloading the zip file, you open the Preferences window. Select the Add-on tab and then select Install. You then locate the zip file you downloaded and, without opening the zip file, select and load it. You check the box to activate it. Then you load the PBR Painter workspace by opening the chevron and selecting Load PBR Painter Workspace. The PBR Painter workspace will appear to the left of the other workspaces. I like to move it to the right end of the list by right mouse button selecting it, then in the drop-down menu selecting Reorder to Back. It is recommended that you save a new startup file by selecting the File menu, then Defaults, and Save Startup File. To add a texture set, we first need to add a material. In the Outline window in the upper left-hand corner, you select the cube. The cube primitive already has a UV map assigned to it, so we can go ahead and add a material. In the 3D Editor window's Properties panel, select New to add a new material. You can name it anything you like, but for now we'll just leave it as Material. In the Properties window on the right, select Set Material for PBR Painter. In the pop-up window, you can uncheck Backup Current Material and set Fake User. You can then select OK. Now that you have added a material, you can now add a PBR Material Texture Set. I'm going to open textures.com on the internet, search for metal, and select battered steel. With a free account, you can only download 512 by 512 or 1024 by 1024. However, 1024 by 1024 is ideal for Trainz, so you can download that set. I'll download the albedo, normal, roughness, and metallic maps. In the Properties window, you now select the Add Layer icon. In the pop-up window, you can name the new layer. I'm going to name it Metal. Select Filled if it is not already selected, and select OK. Now select the Import Multiple Textures icon. Locate and load the albedo, normal, roughness, and metallic maps. To see the texture on your mesh, select refresh material. There are many controls you can tweak to change how the material appears on your mesh. For example, you can select the normal map and increase the strength, say to 2.5. I'll have more to say about tweaking the material when we start making models. With the PBR Painter add-on, painting is also integrated right into Blender. Let's paint on a face of the cube. To add a paint layer, you select the Add Layer icon. Change the layer name to Paint. In the Filled Painted field, select Painted. Set the resolution to 1K and select OK. Then select the red Refresh Material. Select the color icon, if it is not already selected, to select the color layer. Select the color swatch and change the color to red. You can now paint on your model. To erase the paint, select Erase Alpha. To paint some more, select Paint. Again, there are many controls you can use to adjust your painting. For example, you can change your brush size to 100 pixels. And your brush strength to 0.2. Then paint. The asterisk indicates there are unsaved changes to your painting. In the Properties window on the right, select Save Images. Another way you can paint on a mesh is to add a stencil. I'm going to use a black and white Blender logo. You add a new paint layer by selecting the Add Layer icon. Change the layer name to Stencil. Set the resolution to 1K and select OK. Then select Refresh Material. In the Properties window on the left, you check Brush Mask and open the chevron. You select New, select Open, and load the stencil file. In the Mapping field, you select Stencil. To get a clean face to stencil, with the mouse cursor hovered over the 3D editor window, you can switch to Front View, keyboard shortcut number-pad 1 key. Notice that when you hover the mouse cursor over the 3D editor window, the stencil appears. You can position the stencil using Alt plus the right mouse button and dragging. You can also change the size of the stencil by using Shift plus Alt plus the right mouse button and dragging. Under Brush Color, you can select white. Then select the color swatch and pick an orange color similar to the Blender logo. With the brush size set to 50 pixels and the brush strength set to 1, you can paint the outer circle. You can now change the color to a blue similar to the blue of the Blender logo and paint the inner circle. Once you have completed your texturing, you need to create 3 maps: base color, normal, and parameters for export to Trainz. The parameters map is made up of 4 maps: emission, roughness, ambient occlusion, and metallic. The maps are created by a process called baking. In PBR Painter, this can be accomplished in 3 steps. The first step bakes the base color, normal, roughness, ambient occlusion, and metallic maps. To bake, you select the Bake button. Set the resolution, say, to 1K and the margin to 0. Check that you want to save your textures externally and create and name a folder for your saves. You set the format to PNG. Set the color to RGBA. Then under Channel Select, you select Manual. You select Base Color, Normal, Roughness, and Metallic. You also check Bake Ambient Occlusion. Now you can select Bake and OK. In your project folder, you will find 5 maps: Cube Base Color 1K PNG, Cube Normal 1K PNG, Cube Roughness 1K PNG, Cube Ambient Occlusion 1K PNG, and Cube Metallic 1K PNG. In step 2, you create the parameters map by channel packing emission, roughness, ambient occlusion, and metallic maps. You uncheck base color, normal, roughness, metallic, and bake ambient occlusion. You check channel packing and then select Add Channel Packed Image and pack individual RBG channels. You leave the red channel as none. This will put a non-emissive black map in this channel. In the green channel, you select roughness. In the blue channel, select ambient occlusion. In the alpha channel, select metallic. Now you select Bake and OK. In your project folder, you will find a map called Cube Channel Packed Image 1K.png. In step 3, you link the texture maps to the mesh for export to Trainz. Trainz requires that the names of the 3 linked maps end in either base color, diffuse, or albedo, normal, or parameters or parameter. So we need to change the names before we link the texture maps. Let's duplicate the maps, then change the names to diffuse.png, normal.png, and parameters.png. Before creating an exportable material, it is a good idea to save your Blender file, because when you save after creating an exportable material, only the exportable material and not the original material will be saved. If you want to go back and make changes, you'll have to go back to your last save. To create an exportable material, you first uncheck Channel Packing. You select Base Color, Roughness, and Normal. Then you select Create Exportable Material. Uncheck Save Textures Externally, select Bake, and OK. To view the exportable material, in the 3D Editor window's Properties panel, you select Material Exportable. Then you can switch to the Shader workspace to view the material. The texture maps in the image texture nodes need to be replaced with those that were created with the correct names for Trainz: diffuse, parameters, and normal. In the image texture node, select X to remove the texture. Then select Open and locate and add the texture maps you renamed: diffuse, parameters, and normal. Since the parameters and normal maps contain non-color information, the color space needs to be changed to non-color. An additional requirement for importing into Trainz is that the material name needs to have a suffix that is Trainz compatible. The usual suffix is m.PBR metal. Switching back to the PBR Painter workspace, in the 3D Editor Properties panel, the material name can be changed from Material Exportable to Material.m.PBR metal. An additional change I would like to make is to increase the size of the cube so it is more visible when imported into Trainz. This can be accomplished by switching to the Layout workspace, opening the Properties panel, and changing the X, Y, and Z dimensions to 20. Increasing the Z location to 10 will place the cube on the grid and therefore on the ground when imported into Trainz. The difference in the appearance of the cube from when we were texturing is due to an artifact of Blender. When the mesh and textures are imported into Trainz, the asset will have the original appearance.